Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar on the top new features in Tableau 10. My name is Kristen Brown. I'm the Marketing Events Manager with Ironside, and I'm going to be the moderator on today's call. So before we get started, I just wanted to give a brief introduction of who Ironside is and why companies choose to work with us. Ironside has provided strategic consulting and business analytics advisory for companies across all industries across North America. To support our business model, we've built out practice areas to deliver strategy, implementation, training, and even platform hosting. We are a full-service firm, started in 1999, and to date have over 500 happy clients. We strive to provide thought leadership that can be applied across your entire organization. Today, our focus is on the top new features in Tableau 10, which was released on August 15th. Before I hand it over to the presenters, just some housekeeping. We encourage questions throughout the entire presentation, but I will be monitoring them, and we will be just going over the questions at the end of the presentation. In addition, the webinar replay will be available, and I will send it out within the next few days. So you can watch it again and forward to any other executives in your organization who are not able to attend. So about today's presenters, we have Brian Chalfor, technical consultant with Ironside, Caitlin Tolbert, also a technical consultant with Ironside, and our guest from Tableau, Mary Kate Quigley, who is a sales consultant. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Brian.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian. As Kristen said, I'm a technical consultant here at Ironside. For today's presentation, I'm going to give a high-level overview of some of the new features in Tableau 10, and Caitlin will help us out and do a demonstration of those features, and then hopefully about 30 minutes after that we'll be taking some questions, and Mary Kate will also help us with that. So quick high level, for those of you who are not aware of what Tableau is, Tableau is a tool that is mostly positioned to service the end user for data exploration. This exploration can have parameters set by IT professionals in order to maintain data governance within your company. Tableau hangs their hat on speed and promotes the ability to not only create data visualizations in seconds, but also the speed in which this BI tool connects to your data. Tableau also works to have their tool respond quickly to any changes in the data visualizations that have already been created, allowing the user to pivot or manipulate the current dashboards they have. Both end users are able to explore data by themselves as well as publish their findings to other users in an interactive manner. These dashboards can be interactive as well to allow further data discovery. Tableau aims to be a tool that is not only simple to develop data visualizations, but also simple to understand the data being shared. Some of the things that we've seen on a third-party basis using it here at Ironside is not only is it simple to be creating these dashboards and interactive visualizations, but also when publishing them out, having the end user understand the data is a big part to Tableau and a big part of the tool. Quickly before we start going into features, just how you can upgrade to Tableau 10. So Tableau 10 upgrade is free as long as you have an existing Tableau license. They do offer a free trial on their website, so you can download exactly Tableau 10 at the start and starting from today. Archive versions are also available, so if you are working in a project that needs to use older versions of Tableau, that is available on their website too. A feature that's been long in demand by Tableau users has finally been rolled out in Tableau 10. Users now have the ability to join tables from different databases using the Data Source Connections tab. To help users keep track of which database each table comes from, Tableau has implemented color-coded connections. As you can see in the image here, a table from Microsoft SQL Server, which is colored blue, has been joined with a table from MySQL, which is colored yellow. Previous versions of Tableau had several restrictions when combining multiple data sources. The only way to connect tables together from different database connections was to blend the data. Again, this is in previous versions, 9 and prior. When using a blend, also 9 or prior, between two databases, the join is always a left outer join between the main table and the table that is blended to. Row-level calculations involving fields from different databases were not supported. This limited the amount of data manipulation you could accomplish when using multiple sources, while negatively impacting performance as well. Fortunately, the new cross-database join now supports the ability to create an end-join between databases that will not only improve the performance of the workbook, but also just querying the required rows. This new edition also supports row-level calcs that use data from both databases. Tableau 10 now allows users to not only join multiple databases together, but you can also have the ability to filter across these multiple data sets. A use case for this would say if you're a clothing retailer and you control multiple brands headquartered in different locations with information stored on different databases, in order to conduct a competitive analysis to find out which brand is producing a stronger jean sales, you can quickly pull the relevant tables for the different lines of jeans from the two different databases where the brand information is stored. You then can add a quick table calculation that divides one brand's revenue totals against others and quickly get a view into what % of the second brand's revenue the first brand reached. This information can be turned into a visualization rather quickly and then published out to the company's decision makers. Also, with the rollout with Tableau 10, you have several new data connections that weren't previously available. Previously, some of the bigger ones were just connecting to Oracle databases, SQL Server databases, as well as common flat files. Some of the new database connections we have now is connecting to Google Sheets, Cognitio, SAP HANA from the Mac, Cisco Information Server Connector, Intuit QuickBooks, and MemSQL. As BI tools continue to grow in the online cloud-based space, Tableau 10 makes similar pushes with the increased functionality of their Tableau Server web client. Some of the new things to this web client is the ability to add published data sources while creating dashboards, formatting the workbooks, blending the data sources, highlighting data, as well as create and edit table calcs. Updates like these on the Tableau server side are important for building out the tool's capabilities on an enterprise level. Tableau has historically been considered as a point solution for business users who need quick answers to questions on the fly. However, their efforts around continuing to develop a more robust centralized option where multiple users can contribute and administrators can oversee development and data quality means Tableau 10 is becoming more viable for larger implementations as well. Right now, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Caitlin Tilbert, who will follow up with a demonstration of some of Tableau 10's new features.
Thanks, Fred. So on this slide, this discusses the features that I'm going to demo. So we'll go through the new cluster analysis capability, the ability to now create custom territories within maps, a new highlighting feature, and how to size down dashboards for mobile use. So now I'm going to exit out of PowerPoint and head on over into Tableau. For this demonstration, we tried to pick a data set that was a little more exciting and hopefully is something that everyone can relate to. So we chose the 2016 fantasy football draft projections. Unfortunately, if you're currently playing fantasy football right now, this is not up-to-date information. This was at the beginning of the season, so I can't give you any tips of how to set your lineups for tonight, but hopefully this will teach you how to do it in Tableau so you can go and do this later. So first, let's see how the clustering works. And clustering, basically what clustering allows you to do is it allows you to break down much larger data sets into more manageable chunks. Clustering is very heavily used in marketing analysis for customer segmentation. So basically what that means is if you have a huge customer base, a cluster analysis might help you to figure out which customers to send certain promotions to so that you're not both annoying customers that aren't interested in those promotions, but you're also reaching the ones that are really likely to bite on your promotional deal. Cluster analysis is also used in healthcare for disease classification, predicting patient issues. It's also used for socioeconomic classification, world indicators, third world versus first world. Basically, any type of a scenario where you might have a large data set that has a lot of overlap, but within your large data set, there's smaller groups that might have more things in common, thus allowing you to get to a higher level of detail for the areas that you're of interest. Lucky for us, even though clustering is a fairly complex algorithm, Tableau makes it super easy. All you have to do is set up your dashboard with the measures that you're looking to cluster on, and you click the Analytics tab, and you just drag the cluster model right here. And if you're not familiar with how clustering works at all, don't panic, because Tableau does this in the background. It'll automatically optimize the way that it'll automatically optimize the number of clusters that you have. So in this example, I dragged the rank and the projected points for the fantasy football draft into the field, and Tableau has created 3 clusters automatically. If I, for some reason, wanted there to be 5, all I have to do is type the number 5 into the clustering box, and it'll automatically create 5 clusters instead of the default of 3. If for some reason I only wanted there to be 2 clusters, this is also not a problem. You just type 2 in. And like I said, if you're just not really sure what your data looks like and you're trying to investigate, you can simply use Tableau's default, and it'll give you the optimal number of clusters based on the algorithm. So this is really useful because you can now drag your clusters over to your data tab. And what this allows you to do is create a group, which is a field based on your different clusters. So I can rename this top players, for example. And I can go in and edit my cluster groups so that the names make more sense. So right now, cluster 1 and cluster 2 and cluster 3 really aren't very descriptive. They're not very helpful for identifying what this data really means. But I know that I've pulled in rank and projected points. So cluster 1, which is blue, is probably my high-ranking players. Cluster 2 is probably medium-ranking players. And then finally, cluster 3 is low-ranking players. And you could do this, obviously, with any number of clusters. And then you can also always go back and edit the number that you have if you obtain new information. For example, say I don't care about middle players. I just want to know if I am going to pick them or I'm not. I could go back and change this so that there was only 2 clusters showing. And it's very easy. You go back and you just hit the edit button, and you can rename things however you want to fit your business needs. And then now that I've renamed the clusters, I can just drag it right here, and it will now rename my label to show top players, high, low, medium, and rank. And then if I wanted to drill down further, I could filter, for example, on position. Say I'm trying to figure out which quarterbacks I want to draft. Now I can quickly see this section of high quarterbacks, low and medium, and I might even want to then filter on only the high players so that I now have this list of who to pick. So that's a cool feature. The next feature that we're going to go through is the ability to create custom territories. So one of the really great features about Tableau, if you're not familiar with it already, is its ability to very quickly visualize map information. So if you have either latitude or longitude data, city, state, zip code, country, Tableau recognizes this information and can plot it automatically. So in this data set, I have the city and state of all the teams. And basically in industries, there is a need to create territories. Ones that are pretty standard are city and state or region. Those are normally already captured within your data set. But sometimes when you're doing a project or you're analyzing some information, you might have a need to create a custom territory. For example, in sales or marketing, if your associates have territory in New England, but then they also work in Colorado, that's probably not already listed in an attribute. that you could easily classify. So you might need to create your own attribute that's grouping your salespeople accordingly. It could also be used for tracking population density in different areas. If you work in crime or policing, maybe figuring out where are the dangerous areas in a neighborhood. But what this does is it allows you to very quickly classify territories in a new way. So we'll go through an example. So this is the fantasy football draft data. So what I'll do is say that these cities right here are my teams, but I also have 2 teams in California and the Patriots. So I can then quickly right-click and I hit Group by City and State, and I can rename this similar to how I renamed the other one. So I can go in here and I can hit Edit Group, and so I'm going to call this Fantasy Team Ownership. And this is the group I just created. The default is to list out all the cities and states that you selected, but I can quickly change this to say Caitlin. So now I know that all these blue dots belong to me. Tableau will automatically leave anything that isn't in a group classified as other, and it's defaulted to gray. If I then want to show the teams that Brian has, and the way that I'm selecting these circles, by the way, is I'm selecting the first one by just clicking and dragging a box. But then if I want to select other ones, you just hold down the Control key, and you can very easily then drag other boxes around the remaining areas that you want to add to your group. And then to create the second group, all I do is the same exact thing. I right-click and I hit Create Group, and now orange has popped up. And I'm going to go back and classify under my Fantasy Team Ownership. I'm going to hit Edit Group, and now I'm going to assign this group to Brian. And then we'll just, for simplicity's sake, say that this is a small fantasy team, a fantasy draft league, and we only have 3 members, and the other one is Mary Kate. And then one other thing that's super easy to do in Tableau is that if you don't, like Mary Kate probably doesn't want to be gray. Gray is kind of a boring color, so you can very easily change the colors of your anything that you're displaying, any of your visualizations. You just hit the drop down and you can change colors. These are the automatic colors that show up in Tableau, but as you can see, there's numerous different color palettes. So if Mary Kate wanted to be bright red, for example, it's easy to apply that to her. And now you can quickly visualize all of your custom territories, and it just takes a couple of clicks. Another cool feature that Tableau has now rolled out is the highlighting feature. And basically what this allows you to do is to take a visualization and take one of your dimensions and very quickly visualize where this lies on the chart. So we've been playing around a lot with how do you quickly color code your clusters, how do you color code your custom territories, but what if you're trying to visualize something where there's too many options to show the colors? For example, if I wanted to see where the different teams lie within this graph that's showing the rank of the players and projected points, if I wanted to color code this by team, it's a little bit messy. While the visualization and the colors look beautiful because Tableau has great color schemes, this doesn't really help you out. Oops, I dragged player. Let me drag color. But it's still the same. If you let me just put team color. Okay. So anyway, if you are trying to pick out of here whether it's the Bengals or the Bills, both of those colors look fairly similar. They're very similar to the Raiders and the Rams. You might have a hard time distinguishing where the team that you're looking for live. So what would be more beneficial is to put team back on detail so that the information is still available when you hover over it, but instead you can click the drop-down menu on team and hit this show highlight button. And what this does is it's still a visual cue, but it's much more obvious. So you can see as you go through the drop-down, the different teams are highlighting themselves in the chart below. You can also keep it on the side so that the drop-down doesn't get in the way of the visualization. And you can quickly go through and see a high-level overview of where your team's players are falling on this chart. This is particularly useful, too, if you have sales data over time for many different product lines. The more products that you have, the more visually distracting it will be to add a lot of colors in to distinguish between the different products. But what's really useful is if you can see all the products displayed in the background, but be able to quickly highlight what you're looking for and do a quick visual comparison between your different product lines. Also, if you wanted to leave one, you can also click it and it'll stay highlighted until you clear it. So it's a really useful feature. And then if you're done highlighting, you can always hide the highlight card again. So the last feature that I'm going to demo is the dashboarding capabilities and the new ability to quickly size your dashboard for different mobile devices such as tablets or phones. So to create a new dashboard, you click the dashboard button, which is in between the sheet and the dashboard. If you're not familiar with Tableau, previously these last few demonstrations that we've been going through were for workbooks. But what's cool about Tableau is you can combine several different workbooks into a single dashboard simply by dragging the workbooks right into your dashboard. It automatically defaults to tiling, so you'll notice if I drag this to the bottom, it's going to snap it in half so that clustering is at the top, custom territories is at the bottom. But if I, for some reason, wanted to then put my highlighting feature directly on top, I can do that too. I don't recommend that. It doesn't really look good, but there's sometimes reasons why you would want to do that. For example, if you wanted to have your legends overlay on top of the graph, this floating feature is pretty useful. So now we've made our dashboard. We have our high-ranking quarterbacks, and we can also see where who owns the teams in what region. And say this dashboard looks exactly the way we want it to. Say we spent a couple hours and we fine-tuned it, making it look as visually appealing as possible. But now we want to know what it's going to look like on a different device. So you can hit the device preview button, and you'll notice that this screen up here pops up that now says device type, model, and so we can go through and we can select desktop, which is the default typically, tablet, or phone. So let's pick tablet for now. And then within the model, this will change depending on which device type you've selected. So you can see that the iPad mini shrinks a little bit, and you can, this black outline is basically showing you where your dashboard is going to cut off on these different devices. So if we did phone, and we'll go with the Samsung Galaxy Note 4, for example, we can see that we're only going to see the tip of the clustering worksheet, and we're only going to see the very top of custom territories, which isn't going to be a great user experience because now this is all cut off. The information isn't very accessible, and your users are going to have to scroll through to find all the information that they need. So what you can do is hit Add Phone Layout. So now we've added the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 over to our Layout tab, and we can hit Fit All. And what it does is it shrinks the dashboard so that it fits in the screen so that users can see all the information at once. we then might decide that maybe this is too much information to be displaying on a cell phone, and we can remove part of our dashboard, we can rearrange it, and we can now show the ranking quarterbacks clustered by high, medium, and low ranks. And this now is a more visually appealing, easy to navigate through dashboard that can be displayed on a phone. You could do the same thing with different devices, and you can play around with your dashboards to make sure that your user experience is going to be successful across multiple platforms. So this concludes the demo portion of our presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions at this time. I would also like to note that if this information was a little hard to follow visually, I wrote an article about the top 10 features in Tableau that cover the vast majority of the information that Brian and I have discussed within this presentation, and all of that's available on our blog, ironsidegroup.com/insight/knowledge sharing. And if you search for my name or search for Tableau 10, the article will pop up, and that hopefully will be an additional resource for you to walk through. Okay, so the first question is, what algorithm is used for the clustering model? Is this the only algorithm Tableau uses for clustering? So Tableau uses the k-means clustering algorithm, and basically what that means is so k-means stands for k number of means, where you're able to implement the number of clusters that you want. So in the example that we went through with the football data, Tableau defaulted to 3 clusters, which would mean k is equal to 3. And basically the way that that algorithm works is it'll start with 3 means, and it will go through the list of items, and it will classify each object to minimize the individual sums of squares. So basically, if you have a point, you'll have three points, and they usually start pretty far apart. And each one of the new items that comes in the list will be assigned to the point, to the mean that it fits the closest to. Basically, the algorithm will go through the entire set of information. It will classify each one of the data points to the closest of the 3 means, or 4 or 5, however many clusters you're trying to achieve. Once each data point is assigned to a cluster, the clustering algorithm will then recalculate the mean of the cluster. It will then take these 3 new means, and it will go through the process again. It will then take every data point, and it will assign it to the nearest mean. And basically, this algorithm iterates over and over and over again until it gets means where the data points are not shifting clusters. And that's how the algorithm converges and assigns a data item to each cluster. Okay, thank you. Okay, when would you use data blends versus cross-database joins?
Sure. Well, I would say the main reason why you would want to use data blending as opposed to database joins or vice versa is really dependent on the structure of your data. So if you're trying to bring together 2 different data sources that have different levels of aggregation, and in that visualization itself, you want to bring together the 2 disparate data sources, that would be a much more appropriate use case for data blending. But also, cross-database joins are great for when you really want that row-level joining of the 2 disparate data sources. So maybe you have something in Oracle and something in SQL Server, and you want to bring them together at the row level as an inner join. That would be when it's much more appropriate to use cross-database joins.
Okay. Okay, the next question, how would I create various dashboard versions? So my interpretation of this question is how would you create dashboards that are sized for different objects? An alternative way to interpret that question would be, how do you create dashboards with different information? And both are accomplished in a similar way. So we can go back into Tableau. So if you wanted to create this dashboard, it's sized right now for the Samsung Galaxy Note 4, but if you wanted to size it for a different object, you can just right-click it super quickly. You hit Duplicate Sheet, and now you have a copy of your dashboard where you can very easily go in and say, okay, I want this one sized for the iPad mini. You hit the same button over here on the right. You hit Add Tablet Layout, and then you hit Fit All. And now that we're on the iPad mini, we see, well, okay, the custom territories actually fits on this one. But on the iPhone, we'll only display one of these items at a time. If you wanted to create an entirely new dashboard, you would just click the dashboard, create dashboard button, and you could drag any of your sheets in as you please. Okay. Would I duplicate dashboard with a new alias and resize resolutions for different platforms? So I think that question hopefully was answered in my demonstration, but basically, yeah, if you want to change the size, you can just make a copy of it and then resize it to whatever device you want.
Technically, you don't always have to duplicate it because you're saving the different object sizing. So you can always just click back to default or back to, sorry, I'm not answering the same question. You can change them up there at the top on the left-hand side.
Got it. All within one worksheet or one dashboard. Great. Do cross-database joins take place on the row level? So a cross-database join does take place on the row level, but it can also take place at a higher aggregate level. It depends what you want to join on. In the example that I just gave, I joined to location data, so I didn't join. The lowest level of detail in the fantasy football draft data was the individual players. And I didn't join on player, I joined on location, but the location will be then applied at the row level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and one of the positive features for allowing cross-database joins too is the ability to do inner joins, and that way performance of both connected to your data as well as when it's churning out the visualizations and dashboards, it'll be a lot faster as well.
Okay, well, we don't have any other questions that have come in. Thanks everybody who did join and participated. As I mentioned earlier on this webinar, we will have a replay available. We will send it out to you, I would say probably by Monday morning. And if you have any other questions before, feel free to connect with Brian or Caitlin. Their emails are on the screen in front of you. But yeah, thank you all again for joining, and hope you have a great rest of your day.